Hey there, fight friends. Welcome to the MMA show, the show that talks about Canadian mixed martial arts and only Canadian mixed martial arts. If it's happening in a different promotion somewhere else in the world, or if a Canadian fighter's not fighting, I don't know about it, and I don't want to talk about it. I'm going to start off this week's episode having a bit of a sigh of relief. It's been an extremely busy month. In the past month, I've been all across this great country of ours, Canada. I started off, I was in Nova Scotia all the way across to British Columbia. Now it's time for me to just relax a little bit. You've got a great episode ahead of you. I have some wonderful guests. But before we get to those, I'm just going to take a moment and share the huge news that if you follow me on Instagram, you've seen already, and that MMA.ca, or I guess MMA Andy on Instagram, hit over 1 million views for the past month, for the past 30 days. And to say that I'm ecstatic would be an understatement. I'm absolutely thrilled. If you look at channel analytics, you'll know that 1 million for some channels is small potatoes, like something like MMA Junkie or ESPN, whatever. That's a drop in the bucket for them. But for a niche market like Canadian mixed martial arts, which, if you didn't know, and I hate to break the news to you, not a lot of people pay attention to, 1 million views is absolutely overwhelming. And I almost can't believe it. I've been going full court press for a few years now, putting in constant content. And this is my first time over 1 million. I've been to 800,000 a few times before, but this is something else, man. So I just want to take a moment and thank each and every one of you for your continued support, for liking my Instagram posts, for following me on Facebook, for commenting on my Twitter, for checking out my videos on YouTube, all my social medias. Oh, and TikTok too. I almost forgot. I need to do more on TikTok. Regardless, I'm very happy. So thank you very much. Anyway, so the past month, like I mentioned, I've been a tad busy. I started off on April 18th. I was in Winnipeg for the UFC, and that was an incredible experience. The fights were wonderful, a couple not so great fights, unfortunately, but overall, the event was great, and potentially the thing I enjoy more than actually watching the fights in this sort of hobby of mine is that I get to meet so many wonderful and great people. And definitely in Winnipeg, I got to meet some wonderful people who I'd met, talked to online for a long time, but I met in person for the first time. And I also met a lot of old friends I've known for 10, 15, 20 years in the MMA game in Canada. So it was absolutely terrific. I just loved it. Every time I can go to UFC in Canada, I do. I wish I could go to them all. After that, I was in Pictou, Nova Scotia for Fight League Atlantic 23. That was my first time going to an FLA. I'd been promising them for a long time that I would be there, and the excitement was not a letdown. They're a really well-run organization, fantastic fights. Derek and John have a terrific fight card. They've got something really special going on out there, and I wish them continued success. After that, it was another first-timer for me. On the second to me, I was in Calgary for Absolute MMA. Wonderful. It was also, really neat. It was really cool. It was in the Deerfoot Inn Casino, really beautiful venue. It felt really intimate. A lot of great fights, like one killer of a fight that I probably won't forget for a long time. And I hope to go back to that one as well. After Absolute, I was in Vancouver on the 7th of May, and I got to spend a little bit of time with some family in Vancouver, so that was kind of nice. BFL was absolutely amazing. Main event, Deon Kaj beat Jordan Meehan it wasn't for a title, sorry. But that was one of those dream Canadian matchups I'd been hoping to see for a long time. It could have gone either way. Both Jordan and Deon are absolute studs, and Deon he pulled it out, man. Jordan looks super good in there. He's a killer, and Deon put him away. So congrats to Deon Kaj for that. Afterwards, I got to see him, and he gave me the biggest hug, and he just smiled at me and said, "I can't believe it. I'm so happy." And, it was just so genuine and heartfelt. I'm just so happy for him. But as with anything, you've got a winner and a loser, and I feel for Jordan as well. He's called the young gun. He's been doing this for a long time, since he was 16 years old. That's actually when I first met him. And he still has a lot to contribute to this fight game, so I'm excited to see where he goes next, and I hope he's okay. Following that, I was going to be, that was a Thursday night. I was going to be in Toronto the next night on the Friday to attend Unified 69. However, that event was canceled, or postponed, sorry. That'll be happening in June now. I think it's June 12th. And then finally, my last event was Prospect 23 in Niagara Lake, Ontario. So that was just about a 20-minute drive from my house. It was really nice. I got to sleep in my own bed. Absolutely incredible. Aiden Appel, you saw my interview with him a few weeks ago. Don't forget that name, and I'll say it again. Aiden Appel if that's the first time you're hearing that name from me right now, just remember that in a few years when he's the UFC champion, I have absolutely no doubt that he's going to be there someday. So that's why it's important you follow amateur sports, right? You never know where these young athletes are going to be. You never know. Like I saw Connor McDavid play in St. Catharines, like, what was it, 5-6 years ago, when he was playing for whatever a junior team was. I don't know. I'm not really a hockey kind of guy, but everyone was ranting with this guy named Connor McDavid. Now look where he is. He's one of the top players in the league, one of the top players in the world. So that's why you should support local MMA. Don't forget that. Anyway, this week's episode is going to be a great one. We're going to start off speaking with UFC fighter Jamey-Lyn Horth in what I believe is her first interview since her controversial decision loss to JJ Aldrich at UFC Winnipeg Fight Night. Myself and pretty much everybody else in the world thought that Jamie won that fight. And it was almost a surprise on JJ Aldrich's face when she found out that she was the winner. Yeah, Jamie's got some very strong things to say about that. You probably saw my short clip on Instagram. She talks much more in depth about the loss in the full video interview, so make sure you watch that. After Jamie, we're going to be speaking with a new BFL interim middleweight champion, Jayden Martin. This young man is something special, let me tell you. Most of you watching this have trained for some period of time, either a short time or for your whole life. So you know that every once in a while there's that one athlete, that one fighter who just has something special. We all know how to punch. We all know how to throw a jab. We know how to throw a cross. But sometimes there's a person who just has that extra little bit of sauce in their hands, and nobody can really explain what it is, but they have dynamite in their hands and they just have that knockout power. And Jayden Martin is one of those. He was the deliverer of one of the most brutal knockouts I've seen in a few years, and that was in BFL 82, 83, somewhere around there a few years ago. It was, if you get a chance to watch that, you should watch it. It's pretty spectacular. This past week in Vancouver, he beat Mauricio Barbosa, really well-earned knockout win at 2.5 minutes in the first round. I was really surprised talking to Jayden. He was just he's got so much depth to him. It's not that I didn't expect depth from him in particular, but some people, you can just tell they have a lot to say and a lot on their mind, and Jayden is a very interesting young man, so make sure you listen to that. After Jayden, we're going to be talking to our promising professional mixed martial artist from Ontario, Michael Asiffo. He has got an exciting weekend ahead of him. He is in the Caribbean, actually, in Trinidad and Tobago, and he'll be fighting at CUF, which is Caribbean Ultimate Fist Fighting. Michael's a super great young man. I've seen him fight a handful of times as well, so make sure you check out what he has to say. Our final fighter of the show is last year's World Amateur MMA champion, Scott Heathcote, out of Thick Boy Fight Club in Mississauga. He's currently down in, I almost said Cuba, but no, it's Colombia. He's there with his coach Boyan from Thick Boy, and he is getting ready for either his first or his second, Scott, forgive me, it's either his pro debut or his second pro fight. Terrific amateur career. He's an absolute killer at 125 pounds. So once again, make sure you watch the young guys, because you never know where they're going to go. And we're going to cap off this week's episode with an exciting interview with Alana Bemmann. She is the co-founder of Mayhem Fight Productions. They are a Barrie, Ontario-based amateur MMA organization. They have one event under their belt so far. Their second event is happening in Orangeville, Ontario on the 30th of May, and they have 3 more planned for the remainder of the year. Alana's got some interesting concepts she's going to share with us, and she wants to make MMA more of a complete atmospheric package for fans. So get to go watch the fights, but there's also going to be bands, there's going to be DJs, all sorts of stuff. Hear it from her lips herself when she talks about how she plans on making an MMA fight night an exciting night for everyone. Whew, that's it. So I'm going to stop recording this video. I'm going to download it. I'm going to shove it in the middle of everything else I have, and then I'm going to go take a nap. So while I do that, you take a minute and watch my interview with Jamey-Lyn Horth, and I will, I guess, see you next week. And after that, I'll see you at the fights. Hey there, fight friends. I know you recognize the lady beside me, Jamey-Lyn Horth, UFC fighter from Canada, from BC. I think from Squamish proper, correct?
I'm born and raised in Squamish, BC, so 45 minutes north from here.
Yeah. Before, it's only been the past year that I was aware that Squamish was so close. For some reason in my head, I thought Squamish was way north. Yeah. So it's kind of cool because I see you cross-training. You come down to Vancouver a lot, and you're keeping quite active, and the whole area seems really active.
Yeah, I mean, the Lower Mainland, Vancouver and so forth is, there's lots of little hub gyms, but, each gym kind of has token females, so we kind of cross-train, and I go to 3 or 4 different gyms, and all of us girls follow each other and just get different looks at different gyms, and that's kind of just the way it is down here.
Yeah, for sure. So, fight fans, we're at the weigh-ins for BFL 87 that's happening in Vancouver tomorrow night. We're at the weigh-ins. Jamie was gracious enough to give me a couple minutes, so I'm not going to waste your time because our fighters need to eat food and they need to get out of here. So, Jamie, we're going to get right to it. UFC Fight Night in Winnipeg. I was there for that, and I don't use the word robbery often, but your fight against JJ Aldrich, I had you winning that fight from start to finish, and afterward, after the fight was over, when she was given the nod, it seems like everybody came out of the woodworks agreeing that you were the winner of that fight. So I'm just wondering, overall, what was your experience, and that's got to be tough on you?
Yeah, definitely tough. I mean, there's lots of working parts in it. Fortunately for me, I have a wicked team around me and support system, so I kind of just took a back seat, and I use the analogy like I have two pit bulls on a leash because my coaches and my agency have been nothing but supportive, and they're working behind scenes to get sort of things dealt with, see if we can make some adjustments. But for me, it's life goes on, and unfortunately, more fights are to come, and I just need to get my head clear from that and move on to the next goal, and not to say that feeling doesn't feel shitty and that I'm not upset about it. I just carry myself differently, and if I sat in that shitty feeling, and it would overcome me. So it's time to push forward and look for the next fight and grow from that.
Yeah, that's a great attitude. And I was actually in the Canada Life Center when your fight happened, and I was watching the big screen, and I was watching your faces, you and JJ, and when they announced that she was the winner, I wasn't looking at you at all. I was looking at her because her reaction was almost incredulous. Like she couldn't believe she won either. I'm wondering, at that exact moment when her name was called, what was going through your heart and your mind?
Well, when they said the first J, we thought it was me, and then the second J came out. So, instantly you can see it on my face. I look like a Muppet from the Muppets. So I definitely, been in a decision situation, while making it to the UFC. And, sometimes I think it's better off to not leave it to the judge's hands, obviously, because you never know what you're going to get out of it. Example A. It was visibly shook. I was like, hey, what the hell is going on here? So, yeah, very frustrated and shitty outcome for what we thought was a really great performance. And, our game plan, we played it from the minute the fight started, and we thought we were successful. We know we were successful. I shouldn't say thought. There's lots of supporting evidence to that, and like you said, just the way things were scored and commentators and so forth, and just the buzz that it created online. I think a lot of people felt the same way.
Yeah, I think during that fight, you showed you had a lot of aggression. You were moving forward you were pushing the action. You had most of the cage control. You looked solid. You had solid fundamentals, good jabs, good kicks. Everything looked really good, and so that's why I was flabbergasted.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks to have your art on display and then have it sort of like ripped underneath your feet, like a lot of things came out of that. That was the top 15 placing for me, half my pay, and a lot of other things. And, when you talk about the criteria and the cage control, like holding the center of the cage, landing more of the significant strikes, creating more damage, you think those are the things that judges are looking for, but sometimes you just don't know. And, there's been lots of things that have come to light, over this. I don't pretend to understand betting because I just don't care. I'm not a gambler. But I've learned a lot. And I just think that maybe things weren't handled in the right criteria that they should have been. But again, I have a team behind me that's handling all that, and I get to sort of take that stress and put it on them and continue to do my job and look for another fight.
It's funny you mention that because I don't pay attention to any of that betting nonsense whatsoever either, so I don't really know. But what you just said, is it something we can talk about more now? Is there something nefarious that was going on that you know of?
Nothing that I know of, like, personally. I mean, there's a lot of politics and stuff in sport, with betting and stuff. You hear all these, like, weird betting sway odds and things just happening. And, honestly, the best analogy I heard was that if you put $100 on her to win by decision, right when the fight ended, to have her hand raised, you would have won $30,000. So, when you start looking at numbers like that, like I said, I don't pretend to understand, but that's a pretty big difference.
Yeah, I think you were like minus 3,500 going into the third round or at the end of the third round.
Yeah, and my coaches have always been truthful and honest, and they'll tell me I'm down rounds or I'm up rounds or whatever it is. Like, they're not hiding anything, and I appreciate the no bullshit attitude. And going into that third round, they just said be smart and let's finish this round. So yeah, it's hard, but again, like I said, like, I haven't shed any tears over it because I still feel like I won. I know I won, so keep my chin high and push forward.
For sure. Okay, I know you want to get out of here, get some food. Last question, I'm going to give you a chance to plug your fighter. Who are you here with tonight? Who's fighting at BFL 87?
We got the first fight of the night and the second fight of the night. So we got Will Haylock and Niall Sinnis from Squamish, BC, representing the Sound Martial Arts. Super stoked for these guys. One's a kickboxing fight, one's an MMA fight. These guys are in the gym grinding with me all the time. Whether they're amateurs or pros, we all treat them the same, and we all go through the same process. So I'm really excited for them to get their time in the cage and showcase all the things they've been working on.
Fantastic. Okay, well, Jamey, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it. I've been trying to get a hold of you for a long time.
We're here now.
Finally happened. There we go. Andy and Jamey here at PFL 87. It'll happen again. Congrats on everything, on your success and everything. Super happy for you, and enjoy the fights tomorrow night.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. There you go, fight friends. Jamey-Lyn Horth, UFC fighter, attending BFL 87 tomorrow night in Vancouver. Jayden Martin, welcome to the MMA show, or instead of Jayden Martin, I suppose I should really call you by your actual name, the Battlefield Fight League interim middleweight champion.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me. It's good to finally meet each other at the event and talk face to face.
Yeah, I've got a whole list of questions, but you just said when we met at the event, it was only briefly for like 30 seconds or so, because I saw you. It was after the fight in the sort of back area, and I wanted to just go up and say a quick hi and just show my face to you so you could see me. And you were swarm, man. Like, I had a hard time getting 30 seconds in. So that's why when I saw you, I just said, I'm in and out. I don't want to keep you, because you had, I don't know, hundreds of people trying to get to you.
Yeah, I guess the curse of being half Filipino is I got a huge family, right? And they're very supportive. Everybody comes out. I even hid upstairs for a little bit because I knew it was going to be crazy and couldn't make it past them. I got downstairs and there was still, I'm glad they all came, but a little overwhelming.
I'm sure it is. All right, Jayden, before we get too far in the interview, I know that you're really well known in the Lower Mainland in British Columbia. Would you mind just taking a second, and for the rest of the viewers who are watching from the rest of Canada, introduce yourself, just say who you are, how you got involved in combat sports, and anything you want to say.
My name's Jayden Liquid Steel Martin, the current, interim, but it's debatable right now. I'm the Battlefield 185 champion. I've been training this will be my 22nd year of doing martial arts. I started when I was a kid and really had no intentions of being a fighter or a coach or anything really martial arts. I was really focused on baseball, but I had epilepsy when I was younger, actually. So I had seizures, I was on medication, and I was really kind of like an angsty kid. So with the added weight from the medication, willing to fight anybody, anytime for any inconvenience as a kid, my dad decided to bring me to a gym, sign me up to lose weight and just kind of get more focused and deal with all that internal anger. And a couple years went by, years turned into decades, and this is what I do for a living now. I teach full time. I fight as often as I can, with all the injuries that I have and the health concerns, but as often as I'm able. And hopefully, fingers crossed, I have good momentum right now. I can stay active. I'm looking to get on the next card or as soon as I can, just to, I guess, unify the belt and go from there.
Now, I was going to ask you about that, but you just kind of brought it up about fighting whenever you're able. So you actually had your first fight, an amateur fight, in 2012. That was 14 years ago. And as an amateur, you went 4-0, and that culminated in you winning the BFL amateur welterweight title against Keenan Keller. So it's 170 pounds. And then as a professional, you're 4-1. Your first fight ever was a loss, and that was due to injury. And then now you're undefeated in 4, and you look very impressive doing it. But that's a really long time span, man. Was that all injuries?
A lot of it was injuries. And at the time, my previous gym, I was there for about 2 decades. I was an owner there. I taught class full time. So I was kind of torn between being a competitor and also running and building the gym. So a lot of the times I had opportunities to fight and compete and travel, but because I was so, focused on coaching and the business, I missed a few opportunities. Now I wouldn't trade it for the world, but I'd have a couple fights and then have to cancel a fight or not take a fight. One of my old teammates, for example, Kyle Machado, he made it to the UFC, had a couple fights, former BFL champ. In the course of him coming to our studio and training his first class, to me having my fight after my first professional fight, he had already had like 10 fights and gotten the UFC. So, everybody's journey is different, but it's been a mix of injuries, health concerns, and then just, prioritizing other things rather than my own career.
Sure. That makes total sense. Now, I've had the pleasure of watching you fight in person twice now, and you won both those fights. You look so good.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. But for people who haven't seen you fight, Could take a second, just describe your fight style. What can they expect when they see Jayden inside the cage?
Well, all my pro fights have been by knockout in the first or early in the second. My amateur fights, the same. I had one submission victory, the rest knockouts, one decision. And the decision was my mistake. The guy was tough as nails. He had never been knocked out. And my whole thing in my head was, I'm going to be the first. Could have fought a lot smarter, but, made it to the decision win. But, it is what it is. So usually fireworks, someone's getting put to sleep.
Yeah, that's okay. It's good to take chances sometimes, as long as it's like it's funny, people don't understand there's a safe way of taking chances and a dangerous way of taking chances. And I think trying to get a knockout, depending on the opponent, that could be a safe way to do it.
Yeah, I think getting hit is overrated. And if I can hit you before you hit me, might as well. Plus, as an MMA fighter, you don't get paid by the hour. So if I can go get
Yeah.
that check in 2.5 minutes, why not?
Sure. Now, speaking about getting hit, BFL 87, just a week ago, you fought Mauricio Barbosa. And coming into the fight, there was a lot of hype that this was going to be a fantastic fight, and it sure was. I kind of wish it had gone 3 rounds. I'm sure your body appreciates that it didn't. But you both look super good in there. There was a little bit of a kerfuffle at the weigh-ins because you made weight and he didn't make weight. So that means you were eligible for the title and he was not. But just take a second, talk us through that fight. What did you expect from him as an opponent going in? And after the fight was over, any updated thoughts on that?
I've known about Mauricio in the local circuit for a while, and I don't think his professional record reflects his actual skill because it was only his second pro fight. He had previously quite a few fights back in Brazil, kickboxing and Muay Thai. He was the amateur champion in BFL as well, and he's quite good. He's dangerous. For striking, I really like the idea because I get to strike with a guy who, one, I've seen put people to sleep. It excited me. His style is something that I know I would do quite well with. And for example, he's a really good counterpuncher. He's got good timing and he's long. He was
Mm-hmm.
3 inches taller than me. And I remember when I stood beside him, he like in the most respectful way, he's like an orangutan. His arms came down to his ankles. He's got the really long arms. So the idea was to kind of feel him out, see the timing, set some traps, feints and fakes. And then in the first exchange, I hit him and I realized I could hit him whenever I wanted. And, the game plan shifted a little bit to a little more pressure. And I was
Yeah.
able to put him away in like 2 minutes and 40 seconds in the first round.
Yeah, it was fast. It was, like you said, it was halfway through the first round. But to me, it kind of felt like it was a little bit longer for the reason I'll explain. Coming into the fight, in just the few hours leading up to it, I was, out amongst the crowd, talking to people and trying to get their opinions on different fights and things. And the common theme that I heard from people when they were talking about your fight was that you're going to starch this guy. You're going to go in, you're going to blitz him. Within 30 seconds, you'd knock him out. It wasn't quite that. I mean, they can't blame them for thinking that based on your past history, right? You've had a 31-second knockout before, and it was a beautiful thing. It was a devastating thing to see, but still, we know you can do it. So that's what they kind of expected. And I'm sure you let them down by taking an extra 2 minutes. I'm just joking. You didn't let anybody down. But there were moments in there when he looked like he was actually in the fight. Like he was giving you some. And he didn't look too bad in my eyes.
Yeah, again, a dangerous guy. I think the one thing that people don't realize until they're in there with me is I'm really fast for a 185er.
Mm.
I think that's to a lot of my years of training. I didn't have a lot of big guys at the club that I was at. So I'd be training with a lot of 45ers, 55ers, and lighter. And I could sit there and use my size and my power, but that's not going to, doesn't do anybody any good. They get hurt. I'm just a weight bully. So I'd always try to beat people at their own game. If you're faster, I want to be faster than you. If you're a better wrestler, I want to out wrestle you, outbox you, whatever it is. That's kind of where my headspace is at. And I think with the speed, I'm used to, again, sparring with guys 145 pounds and being faster than them. So when these guys at 185, 170 come in, I have a significant advantage. And when I hit him the first couple times, it's almost like the Matrix, like slow motion when he was striking. And again, no disrespect to him, but I saw everything coming and he didn't see when I was going to throw. And when I did throw, it landed most of the time.
That's amazing. So you kind of described the Matrix sort of vibe. Has that happened to you before? I know it's happened to me in some things, not fighting or anything like that, but I don't know, driving, like I'll see up ahead an accident or something and I can feel it's almost like slow motion where I'm taking the steps to avoid whatever. But is that something that happens to you often or is it something you cultivate?
I think a little bit of both. Like again, with my record being so inactive, or myself being so inactive, I've never really left the gym. I never had another job. I didn't work construction. I wasn't working as a bartender. Like, I've been in the gym my whole life since I was 10 years old, whether it was volunteering, coaching, and then running a gym. So whether I'm not actively fighting, I'm involved in demonstrating, learning, and like having to explain and break things down. So I just feel that my focus is just on the fighting, the combat aspect of things, and things are a little bit slower, things are a little bit clearer. Like, I'm not good at a lot of things, but when it comes to this, it comes quite natural. So
Wow, that's good. That's a good thing. It's your job then if you're good at it. So
yeah.
we can see the sign behind you, Lions MMA. Take a moment and just describe your gym, the environment there, the training, coaches, teammates. Why is it such a good fit for you?
We have probably the most active fight team in our city. Like, on this card alone, I think we had 7 people supposed to fight. A few fell through, but there was Carson, Bernie, myself. Ali Wasuk was supposed to fight, but his opponent pulled out. We have another affiliate, Austin Batra, who won as well. So just having such an active fight team. Mikey DeChavez as well, who again took the fight on 2 weeks' notice, hadn't fought in years. Like, Mikey is one of those guys. I'm so proud to fly the same banner as him. 2 weeks' notice, injuries coming into it, did not make any excuses, went out on a shield. Just having that type of environment and these guys to feed off of in training is very good. They say iron sharpens iron, and when you're in a room with guys that are either competing jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, Muay Thai, like we have a few people that are going to the Worlds for Muay Thai. They're going to Thailand, and then last year was, I believe, in Italy. So just having that competitive environment is very good for myself that wants to compete.
Who are the coaches there?
Amir and Coach Pauly are the head coaches. They're the ones that were in my corner, along with, Hugh was there, who is another active fighter in BFL. He's given me a run for my money as far as activity, but he's fought. He was actually supposed to fight Ian Gary and Paul Hughes back in the day in Ireland. So he's good as well. We have a pretty strong coaching staff here, and a lot of them are still actively competing. But the head coaches are Amir and Pauly.
I've met Coach Pauly before. What's Amir's last name?
I don't want to butcher it. He's in the office. He's in ear's reach. If I say it, he may come out and roundhouse kick me in the head.
That's okay. I'll make sure I put it in the show notes so people can read it and they can butcher it for themselves.
Absolutely. He's a beast. He's an absolute beast. He's one of my favorite people to spar with.
That's good to know.
Here's that. I love you, Amir.
All right. So now it's been a week or so. You've had, I guess, time to rest as much as you want to. You're back in the gym already, teaching classes, and you said you want to stay active. So presuming you stay healthy, what's next for you? Next BFL card, something else?
I believe Mr. Golshani and Coach Pauly had a meeting this weekend. Jay Golshani is the promoter and owner of BFL. So they are discussing things, I think, giving options, and they're going to talk to me shortly. Right now in Vancouver, we're going to be hosting the World Cup for FIFA. So I don't know if the card's going to be right away. They may have to push it back a bit.
Yeah.
But that's fine. As far as me and my body injuries, everything feels great. I only got the mandatory 14-day suspension, so I could fight whenever. I just don't know when it will line up, just with all the stuff going on in the city right now, but the sooner the better. I don't want to have to wait another 2 years to fight.
I hope not either. I like watching you fight. So, Jayden, the last thing I'm going to say is what I always say to people is there anything we should have talked about that I didn't ask you?
No, this has been great. Straight to the point. You're very easy to talk to. You should think about doing this as a career,
Well, thank you very much. This actually isn't my career. This is just kind of a side gig. I've got a career, but I love doing it.
You're awesome at it.
All right. Well, thank you very much. You're awesome at what you do too.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Jayden, thanks for your time. I really appreciate it. And there you go, fight friends. Jayden Martin, the new BFL interim middleweight champion. Michael Asiffo, it's good to see you, man. I always enjoy speaking with you.
Thanks. Good to be
So
here.
the reason why we're talking right now, this moment, is because you're fighting this weekend in Trinidad and Tobago. Tell me, how in the world did you get that set up?
Well, I've always kind of seen Cup from the outside looking in. The promoter has talked to me a couple times. We over let's say the last 5 or so years, we've talked for a while. And I've always wanted to kind of fight down there. A couple of my teammates have done it before in the past. But given like the knee and then just like other commitments, it wasn't able to kind of get across the line until now. Yeah, very excited to go down there. I've never really fought internationally. Well, I fought in the States before, but I've
Sure.
never fought internationally. So it's a good
We'll
time.
talk more about the knee injury later because that was pretty brutal. Why don't you take a quick moment and just introduce yourself to the audience? Just say who you are, where you're from, where you train, and how you got involved in combat sports.
Yeah, you know what? I should probably have started with that. Yeah, I'm Michael Asiffo. I'm a professional MMA fighter. First, I train. I got my start in MMA because I was going to school for radio and to become a sports journalist. I wanted to be like Tim and Sid, Tim McAlpin, and Sister Carol were my idols growing up. And then I landed in North Bay doing a
Huh.
music radio gig. And over there was a small Muay Thai gym called Action MMA. So I went down there. Corey Jackson, if you're listening to this interview, you're the man. Love you. And yeah, I went from Muay Thai to MMA. I was also doing a little bit of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu when I was in university. And that's how I kind of like transitioned over to the lab MMA because a gentleman named Stefano Hosco was the instructor over at the martial arts club at York University for Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. I did like a little bit of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, but then kind of transitioned to doing a lot of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu when I realized
Mm-hmm.
how important it is. So yeah.
Amazing. So you're a professional MMA fighter. You had an amateur career as well. Uh, I'm going to say something about you. I hope it doesn't offend you, but you've got a record of 1-3. But I've seen you fight in person two or three times, and you're one of those guys who I don't feel like your record reflects your skill level. I think you're much better than your record reflects, and I'm wondering if that sounds like I'm hitting the nail on the head because I've seen you, man. You're super skilled, and sometimes you get bad matchups, and I don't know what have you, but I think I think you should be doing okay now.
Yeah, and for the record, you're not offending me. I'm very self-aware that like 1-3 is my record and it is what it is. Now I think what happens is that like a lot of people see like two fighters, they fight and that's that, but they don't realize like a lot of things that go on with the fighter's mental. And I'm not here to make excuses. Guys beat me fair and
Mm-hmm.
square, you know what I'm saying? But be it like, hey, bad matchup here or there, be it that your mental is not there. In the past, I've struggled with
Huh.
stage fright. That's been like a really big thing for me. So like a couple of my performances where I did do well, like one was the COVID fight where I fought Olivia Brienne. That was probably, in my opinion, my best
Yeah.
amateur fight. Um, no crowd, right? So it was just, hey, me and Olivier, we get to fight, right? Versus crowds that were large, like, yeah, I like kind of struggle with that a little bit. So like getting past that has always been kind of the thing for me. So now that like I think I'm doing better. It's a never ending journey, but I think I'm doing better with that. I think that like my skills that are in the training room are starting to reflect what my skills that are out in the open are starting to reflect what my skills are in
Mm.
the training room. And so I think that's the reason for that. But yeah, I think, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I think a lot of it has to do with just the mental aspect and the matchup aspect. But it's a fight. You
Mm-hmm.
fight who you fight, right? And you go through what you
Well,
got to
first
do.
off, let me say thank you for sharing that. I don't know if it was an easy thing to say or if it's out in the open or not, but I know that mental health struggles, and that is a mental health issue. Not some people hear the word mental health and they think it's all bad stuff, but like stage fright before a fight, sure, it's technically mental health, um, but still, it's a thing. It affects you, right? So, I think that in the past couple of years, the talking about mental health and just mental strength training has come to the forefront. I mean, George St. Pierre was famous for going to see a mental strength coach for the Matt Serra rematch, and a lot of fighters do it now. And I know that Tito Ortiz, former UFC champion, was famously he was throwing up in the locker room before every single fight he ever had. So I think it's probably more normal than we might realize. But I think you're the first person or a fighter who's ever said it out loud to me. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And yeah, like I mean, this is the thing. Like I always said it was weird because I never had a fear of losing. I never had a fear of getting beat up. right? But for whatever reason, I just like was so scared of being in front of a crowd. Doing like, and it used to happen, and I couldn't figure it out because I used to play athletics too. I used to play basketball. I used to play soccer, and you'd get the yips, and you're like trying to figure out what's happening. Why am I getting the yips playing football or basketball? And it came down to like that fear of being watched, I guess. So hey, you figure it out, and you kind of work.
So, has there been any steps you've taken to sort of overcome that adversity? Like, are you seeing somebody to help you out with that, or is it just something you're trying to be more cognizant of?
Yeah, you know what? So I did see people for a little bit on that, but like what I'm doing now, just because like you want to kind of develop on your own. You don't want to always rely on people. At least that's the way I kind of figured it out. I never want to like always rely on like, hey, I gotta be at this appointment Tuesday at 7 o'clock or whatever. But what I'm doing now is like, I think what happens is that there's something different from like your everyday life when you're in front of a crowd. And when I was like working in radio, it's different because you can kind of turn the crowd off versus when you're like in front of like an auditorium, it's a different feeling. So one thing I kind of worked on is having a routine, sticking to that routine, because if it's an everyday thing, if it's the same, then going in there just feels like sparring. You're going in there and it's the same. The only difference is you're now, instead of throwing 25 to 50%, you're throwing 75 to 100. That's the only difference, right? So just keeping things very similar, and your routine being the same, and is for me what helps, right? Like I don't try to make anything different. I don't try to warm up different. I try to like keep things similar.
Keep the routine. Yeah, that makes sense to me, man.
Right.
So you had a rough couple of years as well. You mentioned your knee injury earlier on. I saw you doing some of your recovery, and it seems to me like it was a really long process. So just share with everybody what happened to your leg and what you did to get past it.
Yeah, I mean it's a long story. So basically, what took place was I had a fight. Okay, so I before even the fight where the knee before I hurt my knee during camp. But what happened was I tore my MCL, and so I had to pull out one fight. But they kind of told me, hey, you give it 8 weeks, it should be back. I took a fight for like that would be scheduled, I think 2 months after I tore my MCL. In that unified card, the one that Dana White was going to be at in 2023. So I took that fight because it was a great opportunity. You're facing a very good opponent. You're in front of Dana White. Maybe you could turn the ship around. At that point, I was 0-2. And, I was really motivated and committed. I was training a lot. And then what happened is that to kind of I had this thing where like to stay on weight, I would like do like things for a while that were a lot more cardio, but fun. So like at the time I was playing pickup basketball. I was playing a lot of basketball, men's league basketball. And I'm very good at it too. Very, very good at men's league basketball. But I was playing a lot of basketball and I go up for a rebound and like part of it was also, the MCL probably wasn't fully healed. Yeah, they say 8 weeks, but maybe it's like 10 to 12. I go for a rebound, I come down, and all of a sudden I don't have my leg under me. And so here's the thing. I didn't know how bad it was. I kept trying to train through it until I talked to my physiotherapist, who's my physiotherapist now, and they go, hey, you should go and get an actual MRI. Don't test it out. Don't get an actual MRI. I got an actual MRI, tore an MCL, tore an ACL, tore an medial and lateral meniscus. So that was the issue. Now I had a choice. I could either rehab it or do surgery. I actually elected at first to rehab, and I fought on it twice. But then, and to make a long story short, but then there was a doctor I was talking to who happened to be very experienced. He did surgery for a couple of the Toronto Raptors players. And he talked to me and said, hey, I can do the surgery at this time, at this date. So I actually decided to put my career on pause and get the surgery, to see if I could rehab it again. So that's where we're at when it comes to the knee. And 100%, I haven't, there was at no point in time that I worry about the need to fight, but I'm definitely not worried about it now. It's probably even better than it was like before I got the surgery, just because I have more knowledge of how like movement
Yeah,
works.
that's pretty. Pardon me. I'm pretty ignorant about the whole knee joint and how it all interacts and stuff. I had no idea that it could recover on its own. I assumed you needed surgery every single time, but if you can say that 8 weeks, your MCL might recover, that's, to me, that sounds pretty incredible.
So this is the thing: if it's a complete tear, no,
Okay,
you
got
need the
it.
surgery. If you get so at the time I had a what we call a grade 2 MCL injury. I actually injured it in training. Um, and so they were like, hey, if you give it 8 weeks, and you're like, rehabbing good and whatever, you can come back. Um, but I probably shouldn't have been going and playing basketball on a torn MCL. So, and I think it's maturity and just being smart. I wasn't necessarily smart, and I apologize profusely to Unified MMA for that, because it wasn't smart to necessarily play on that bad knee,
Sure.
and do something that like is not necessarily correlated to your training. That was a bad
Okay.
mistake on my part. And it did lead to a lot of those issues. But yeah, that's kind of how it goes. Like if it's grade 1, grade 2, you're good to heal on its own. Complete tear,
Wow.
probably not.
Well, you know what they say, lesson learned, don't do that again. So let's
Yeah.
move on to this weekend. I'm just going to switch over to my notes tab. You are fighting a man named Ryan
Mhm.
Cadisco at Caribbean Ultimate Fist Fighting 22, also known as Cuff, on this upcoming weekend. So what do you know about this guy?
Yeah. We taken a look at his fights. Well-rounded guy. Undefeated in his MMA career so far. So it's an uphill battle for sure. What was really interesting about the way he fights is that when you think Surinamian, or Surinamese, I'm not
I'm
sure
not sure
how it
either.
goes. I don't want to be ignorant to that, but yeah. But when you're fighting somebody from Suriname, you're thinking
Sure,
kickboxer,
yeah.
right? You got Rosenstroy, you've got Tyrone Spong, who I believe is from there as well. Like you're thinking kickboxer. We took a look at his footage, he does like to go to his grappling a lot. Like he's well rounded. There's not really a tough out for me here, but he likes to go to his grappling a lot. Um, Now, I'm not necessarily. He's more of a top pressure kind of grappler, more so than we're going to see like intricate jujitsu per se. At least from the footage we've seen. But it's to say that like we're facing a tough guy who's good everywhere, and knows kind of more so what he likes tactically than he is a guy who necessarily likes to stick to one part of one
Okay.
facet of MMA.
Who are you bringing with you to Trinidad?
So the Lab MMA members, my head coach Don Magbu, Professor Jesse Richardson, is also going to be making the trip down. There are 2 other fighters who are on the card. There was originally going to be 3, but unfortunately, circumstances meant that one of our other teammates
Mm,
could not compete. Eric Van Tran and Manny Magbu are also going to be competing as amateurs on the undercard. Both of them, I have full confidence will take their guys out by whatever they want to do. Manny Magbu, here, like if we camera on me, 5 years, Manny Magbu, you're gonna know, you
really?
remember the name. That's gonna be one of the top players in camp. Yeah,
And he's the son
100%,
of the coach, isn't
100%.
he?
Um, yeah, son of Don Magbu. And I'm telling you now, we see in the training room. I don't want to put pressure on the kid. I just want to be clear, but we know, like we see it, we know who, like, and I'm telling you, give it about 5 years, because he's 18 now. Give it about 5 years. When he's 23, he's gonna be in or around the mix of maybe getting a call from the
Uh,
UFC. I'm not kidding.
well,
Yeah. At least that's my
I would just
prediction.
like to thank you for giving me a soundbite clip that I can post in 5 years when he makes it to the UFC. So that's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, Michael, that's it. That's all I have, man. I'm wondering, is there anything you think we should have talked about that we didn't?
No. Yeah. Nothing comes to mind. I guess, yeah, follow me on social media. I I do work as a strength and conditioning coach and a personal trainer as well. So, definitely if you want to see what is coming up for me, follow me at
Okay.
Michael Asiffo. ASIFFO is my last name. A lot of people, unfortunately, including Cup, I love them, but they did misspell my name. But it's okay. So
That's okay. It's spelled
yeah,
properly at MMA.ca, so that's all that matters.
yeah.
All right, Michael, thank you so much for the time, man. I wish you the best of luck. I always think you're a very polite and genuine and nice young man whenever I talk with you. So I wish you the best. Hope you kick some butt, and we will chat soon.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Scott Heathcote, this is a first for me. I don't think I've ever talked to anybody who was in Colombia before.
Yeah, it feels good to be getting to do an interview with you, Andy. I'm here in Colombia, getting ready for my fight on Saturday.
That's awesome. It's really exciting to see when young fighters like you get opportunities to do things like this, because a lot of times a lot of fighters don't. They stay in their local amateur show, whatever like that. You're a professional now, obviously, but they stick around locally. So the fact you're traveling already, I mean, I know you went to Serbia for the World Championships a few years ago, but this is kind of cool. You get to be so well traveled already.
Yeah, honestly, it's really awesome getting to go to different countries, like part of the fight game, see the world, but also just to experience different styles of fighting from each country. Like you said, I went to Serbia last year for Worlds. I went to Brazil for my first pro fight, so just traveling all over, getting fights.
That's pretty
It's been
wicked.
awesome.
I bet it is awesome. I wish I would have done that when I was, what, are you 24?
23.
23, okay. Do me a favor, Scott. Just take a minute, introduce yourself to the audience, say who you are, where you trained out of, how you got involved in combat sports.
So I'm Scott Heathcote from Canada. I'm training with Thick Boy MMA. I've won worlds as an amateur. Went 8-1-1 as an amateur. I'm 1-0 as a pro fighter right now, and basically I'm on that road to the UFC. Hopefully.
That's amazing. Yeah, you mentioned the 8-1-1 record. You're right on like a 7-fight win streak, and that's super impressive for anybody. I don't care who you are. So I'm just curious, when you got started into fighting, how did that progress? Did you start off straight into MMA, or did you do like a traditional martial art first?
So I used to be a gymnast, a competitive gymnast for Team Ontario, like my whole childhood,
Wow.
and I did that from about 3 to I think 15. And then I stopped doing gymnastics, and I was kind of always getting into like fights when I was younger, just schoolyard fights, outside, whatever. And then once I stopped doing competitive gymnastics, I had a lot of free time. I was like, let's try fighting for a little bit. Went to my first class and just fell in love with it right after that. That's
That's
kind of how my
awesome.
journey began.
Now everybody knows that gymnasts are probably, well, in the top 2 or 3 pound for pound athletes in the world. That's incredible. Have you been able to retain a lot of your strength and your flexibility and all your core strength and stuff like that from your gymnastics days?
100%, yeah. I do still a lot of gymnastic workouts. Like I go to my old gymnastics gym, Vaughn Gymnastics, all the time to do some workouts there. It's a full body, arms, legs. You get the flexibility, you get the coordination from it. That's what you see in a lot of my matches where I'm able to be very dynamic, doing big kicks, doing flips and stuff after the fight. That all comes from like that gymnastics background.
That's wicked. And now you're a fighter. What is it
Yeah.
about fighting? What is it about fighting that you like?
Honestly, like, I love to test myself. That's one of my favorite things. Like, growing up, I was never too into team sports just because it's not just you out there. When you're in a fight, it's if you win, you take all the glory. If you lose, you take all the responsibility. So it's very, like, intimate in that sense that it's only you there. If
Mm-hmm.
you trained hard enough, you did the work, you're going to win, you're going to see there's no external factors. And I think I really just like that idea.
Well, I agree with you somewhat, but from what I talk to a lot of people, and I think that sure, it's an individual sport. Once you step inside the cage, there's no external factors. But before that door closes, before it's just you, the other guy, and the referee, you've got a whole team that supports you. Talk
Oh,
about
100%.
talk about Thick Boy MMA and how they fit into your life.
Yeah, so I've been with Thick Boy MMA for a couple of years now. Boyan, one of the lead coaches at Thick Boy MMA, he was actually my first ever coach. The first day I walked into my first gym, Legends MMA, he was coaching a jiu-jitsu class. So I've known Boyan my whole career, about 9 years now. And once they started up Thick Boy Fight Club, started up putting on amateur shows, I joined the team, and it's just been awesome. Coach
Yeah.
Tyson's one of the best in Canada, I think, and we got a really solid group of guys there, all around my weight too. So it's been perfect for developing me as a fighter, really.
That's fantastic. I've always loved Thick Boy Fight Club. I've made no bones that the events themselves, I love attending. There's nothing like them. They're just the best.
Yeah, it's super fun.
So now you're down in Colombia. You're getting ready for a fight. Just give me a second. I'm going to move my eyeballs to my notes page. So you're fighting a guy called Alejo Sabocal at UGP 19 in Medellin, Colombia. What do you know about this guy?
Honestly, I wasn't able to find too much information on him online. I couldn't find too many fights of his. But from what I can see, he's kind of a brawler. He throws some heavy punches. He has a decent record, 2-1 as a pro, 12-4 as an amateur, I believe. So he has experience. He's quite skilled. But honestly, I feel in the wrestling and the grappling department, I'm definitely light years ahead of him. And then my striking, I have lots of kickboxing fights. I feel like I won't have a problem there either.
Nice. So you're 1-0. Hopefully after this weekend, you'll be 2-0. You mentioned earlier on the UFC is your goal, and that is with pretty much everybody I talk to. So what's your general game plan? Do you have a certain time limit that you're looking for? Do you have a goal for when you want to make it to the UFC?
I would like to make it to UFC while I'm 25, so that gives me about 2 years to get there. My kind of game plan is just to take as many fights as I can and obviously win them all. And if I keep winning fights, naturally I'm going to make it to the UFC someday. So just fight, fight, fight. This year I want to try to get between like 3 to 5 fights. So if I get this fight, win it. Here, I'm about on track. I had one in April. Now I have one in May. Was it May? No. I had one in March. Now I have one in May. Try to get one July. And just keep the ball rolling, really.
So is that something you're trying to do, is keep fighting outside of Canada?
Honestly, no. I'm not opposed to fighting in Canada. They tried to get me on the last unified card. They weren't able to find me an opponent, and then the whole card got kind of shut down anyways.
Yeah.
But it's just been a little difficult finding me an opponent. And then Boyan, my coach, he's traveled all over the world fighting, so he has connections everywhere. He tells me, we got you a fight in Brazil, we got you a fight in Colombia, wherever. I just say, let's go.
Let's go, man. Okay, if you were to talk to a stranger and tell them what you do, how would you describe your fight style inside the cage?
That's a good question. I would describe myself as very unorthodox, very dynamic, where I like to live in like the chaos of the fight. I like to go very high pace, make scrambles happen, just make it not a conventional fight, because I feel like that's where I perform the best at. If it's a very conventional fight, I still have my basics. I'm quite good with that. But if I can make it different, make it weird, give them looks they haven't really seen before, that's where I feel like I really excel at. So I try to just make the fight as crazy and wild as possible, if that makes much sense.
It totally makes sense. I've always said that's an underrated aspect of the fight game that not a lot of people put too much effort into or even thought into, is that, sure, there's the different areas of fighting. There's ground fighting, there's stand-up fighting, there's the clinch, but you have to get to one of those from one or the other. So oftentimes it's in the transition from ground to striking or striking to the ground where some people just get lost and they get taken advantage of. So if you can thrive in that sort of gray space, it's just a big benefit for you.
Yeah, I've definitely felt that's where my benefit has been coming in, where most guys, like you said, they're not really used to that kind of gray area in between striking and grappling, where it's kind of a lot going on. Some people freeze up, and that's where I end up finding my moment to either get the submission or a good punch in.
Well, Scott, this is I don't think I've got any more questions, but my last question I always ask is to give it back to you. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't talk about?
Anything I want to talk about? Not particularly, honestly. I want to promote my fights, and like you said already, I'm fighting here in Colombia on May 23rd. It's going to be live on YouTube and Instagram, so check me out. And remember the name Scott Heathcote. I'm going to be coming to Canada soon to fight in my hometown. And just, you'll see me on the big stage one day.
Is that like a news flash you just gave us? You're fighting in your hometown? What's that and where's that?
There's nothing official yet, but I think I should be fighting in Canada hopefully sometime this summer. So keep tuned. Follow me on Instagram. You'll get some updates soon.
Let's go, man. I'll be making sure I share everything that you put out.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thanks for your time, Scott. Good luck this weekend. Kick some butt.
100%. Make Canada proud.
Alana, thanks for joining us today on the MMA show. I'm really excited to talk to you about your, not a new MMA organization, but fairly new, Mayhem Fights. Would you mind, actually, before we even get into Mayhem Fights, just take a second, if you don't mind, introduce yourself to my audience, just say who you are and why we're talking.
Alana Bemmann and co-founder with Bradley Newen of Mayhem Fight Promotions.
Okay, so Mayhem Fights, you've had one event already, and I know you've already got 4 scheduled for the rest of the year. One's just coming up in a week. Mayhem Fights, tell me about Mayhem Fights, where it came from, where the idea was, the conception of Mayhem Fights. There are already MMA amateur organizations in Ontario, so why did you feel there's a need for you to join the fray?
So in an absolutely unexpected way, I landed into this industry. So I was brought into another organization to sell ticket sales. That's kind of my background, is online sales. And I very, very quickly, so to be honest, when I ended up with that company, I didn't know a lot about this industry. I was very ignorant to it and very uneducated to the background of the MMA community. But very, very quickly, I became immersed in it, and I developed a passion for not just the sport, but the athletes, the coaches, and the fans. So unfortunately, the other endeavor was quickly finished, but it really lit a new passion in me for this community. Just watching the athletes show up to that fight and the amount of dedication, like I was so privy, like I was not privy to how much dedication that they put into their sport, how much sacrifice just to even show up. And Mayhem, as you know, we do amateur fights. So with that being said, a lot of these athletes are doing this just out of pure passion. So that alone is so honorable. So while it didn't work out with the other company, I definitely saw a little bit of a niche in the market. There's a lot of companies and they're doing amazing fight nights, but the entertainment industry in Ontario is lacking a little bit in this area. So I saw a little bit of an opportunity to do something very different when I entered, very unorthodox. And so we've added a lot of entertainment background into our fight night. So we're not just a fight night, we also are a full event. So with that being said, from the moment that somebody gets out of their car to the time that they take their Uber home at the end of the night, they are entertained the whole night through.
I think you're going to have a band at the next event, aren't you?
We have a band that comes with us everywhere. They, their name is Unlocked. And honestly, Karen is the lead singer. And my God, she opens her voice, like voice of an angel, opens her voice, opens her lips, and she has the voice of an angel. Like actually, I have to lift everybody's jaw off the floor before even there's a first fight. She's amazing. She captures, she's sexy. She's can sing anything from Nirvana to Lady Gaga. Like she keeps the crowd pretty entertained. The band as a whole is next level. We also have DJ Def Actec, and he's traveled all of North America doing massive festivals. He is incredible as well. So like I said, like we just have a lineup of all different entertainment options for the same ticket prices going to, you know, another MMA fight, which is amazing. People are really getting a different option.
I noticed that all your events, your scheduled events so far are around the same geographic area too, which is kind of smart because people, they like supporting the fighters from their local community. So if you can get fighters from around your area to start anyway, that's a good sign, and it's probably really helpful for ticket sales.
Yeah, we've been very, very blessed. We kind of stick to our own little niche areas. So we're up in the north here. For the most part, there's some amazing promotion companies that are more south. So we wanted to create opportunity also because we also have a lot of fighters up in the north that are traveling so far. And like I said, in the AMI community, they are traveling, like just their cost of travel to get to the south.
Sure.
If they're home and, practicing and training in the north, it becomes quite overhead for them. So just creating new opportunities in a different area that's a little bit untapped has been kind of where we went with our business.
Yeah, no, it's smart. It's a really good idea. I'm just curious, Alana, do you have any martial arts training yourself? Have you ever done anything like that?
I don't. No, like I said, I landed in this industry completely unorthodox. So no, I have never trained MMA, but I appreciate what they do. But no, I have no background.
Maybe it's something you'll want to get into now or in a short while.
Yeah, you never know. It could happen.
Do some Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, learn how to put your kids in check and without actually hurting them.
I can do that without Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, let me tell you. That's not a problem over here.
So Mayhem Fights, I said you've had one event so far. This will be your second. I'm just going to switch over to take a look at your Mayhem Fights page. So your next event is on the 30th of May in Orangeville, Ontario. You have 5 events for this year. This next one is scheduled for the 30th of May, and I believe you're planning on 11 fights for that night, but I see that there's 7 scheduled so far that I can find anyway. I'm just wondering how you locate your fighters and how do you decide who's going to fight on your card?
So we go into the gyms and we're still, shaking hands, meeting coaches. We're showing up at the gyms and, we're actually just, walking in and introducing ourselves. And we're finding that to be very successful. We do have 10 total fights right now. So this week you'll see a couple more pop up to finish that card. And yeah, we're doing it kind of the old fashioned way. We are literally showing up at the gyms. We want people to know us. We're not just another company. We have a face, we have a personality, and we want people to know that. And that's been very successful. So we're going to keep going with that.
Nice. Now, just out of fairness to your business partner, I think Brendan is his name.
Brad Newen, yeah.
So talk about him for a second. How the two of you meet and how did you decide that this is something you'd go into together?
So he was actually he was in the other company with me. And so he has a little bit more background in this industry. And both of us we really felt like we wanted to bring something a little bit more organized, a little bit more professional, and that catered to not just the athletes, not just the coaches, but also the fans in a much more organized, professional way. So we thought, we should keep going with this. We both really enjoy it, but we want to do it on a different scale than what the other company was doing. So we decided to branch off together. That's how we ended up in business together, was through that. And here we are. Mayhem was born.
Here we are. So five events scheduled for this year. That's pretty impressive if they happen, because without putting a bummer on this conversation, fight organizations, they come and they go pretty quickly. I'm just wondering how you've planned for making sure that you have success in the future, and what things what steps you're taking toward making sure that you're one of the few that survive.
Well, first off, Andy, we will absolutely be here. So we are definitely here to stay. So between my background and Brad's, we're finding, to be honest, I think ticket sales are the hardest thing if the fighters are not selling the tickets for a lot of the companies. And we are doing the opposite. We are selling the tickets online. We are finding a whole new demographic who haven't even been to a fight yet. That's where the entertainment area brings in such new fans that are also just like me when I started, just ignorant to the industry. They don't know a lot about it. And they might be a little bit intimidated to go to a full fight night because there's nothing else going on. That's for the true fight fans. We're doing something a little bit different. We are getting the true fight fans, but we're also getting people who are like, would I go? Should I go? Because now they have another reason to go. We've got the entertainment. We've got a DJ. Everybody's got the DJ, but we've got the band. It becomes an event. It becomes a night out. It's not just to go and watch the fights. So we're finding a lot of new people in Ontario are showing up, coming through our door. They're buying the tickets online because they're curious. They want to go, and they wouldn't have known a fighter. But now they have options because we're showing up in front of them on a daily basis online. So it's very, very different than what the average is doing in the industry right now.
Great. How are your ticket sales looking now compared to what you expected them to be?
Well, we expected to sell out every event, and thus far, knock on wood, we sold out our first event, and we are 75% at the next event. And you know what? It's really funny because we're doing full entertainment, and the buzz is kind of going around. We're getting that a lot, that they're getting a lot of value for their ticket. We're finding our tables and our VIP sections are selling out quicker than general admission, which is absolutely crazy. So we only have a few tickets left in general admission. Everything else is pretty well sold out except for one first row table. So I don't know, everything about our company is absolutely backwards, but we're loving it. We're having so much fun with it, and we're just going to keep on going.
Awesome. That's pretty great. When you take a look at like online sales and all that kind of stuff, it's great. It's wonderful, but it's really important to have the positive word of mouth. And I think after you've already had one successful event, after a second and maybe a third, that buzz throughout the community will only be expanded once people actually realize they've had a good time, maybe once, twice, 3 times. And that's when they talk to their friends and talk to their family. And that sort of helps grow as well, won't it?
Absolutely. The first one, obviously, always the hardest. We have to, really prove ourselves. The second one has been a little bit easier, and we hope by the third, we build momentum. That's business. So just one foot in front of the other. So, so far, so good. We're in a good space. That's for sure.
Nice. Where do you envision Mayhem Fights going long term?
Long term, we will definitely do pro-am, but we're not ready for that yet. We really want to get a little bit more stable in the industry and, work out the kinks. We're brand new. Startups, they do have hiccups, and we're in that space right now. So we want to make sure that we, really get a solid foundation so that when we're hosting bigger, fan lists, we're hosting pros, that we are absolutely fully ready for them. So eventually we will do that. But for now, we are sticking to the amateurs, and
Well, that's awesome. Welcome, and I wish you great success with Mayhem Fights #2 this weekend.
Thank you so much, Andy. I appreciate you.
So before we get going, are there any final words? Is there anything that I should have asked you that I didn't ask you that you'd like to talk about?
No, I think you covered it all. You're pretty fluent.
Well, unfortunately, I won't be able to attend this show. I wish I could, but hopefully I'll get to go to one this summer.
June 27th is the next one after May 30th.
We'll see.
So hopefully we'll see you there. Put it on the book.
I hope so too. All right, Alana, thanks again for your time. There you go, fight friends. Alana Bemmann, co-founder of Mayhem Fights, having their second event on May 30th.
Thank you.